Obviously, the opioid crisis isn't something that it's just Red Deer dealing with, it's the province and most of Canada for that matter. Given that as we sit down at this time for this chat, Red Deer hasn't had or City Council hasn't had the public hearing for safe consumption sites, how satisfied are you with the city's response to the opioid crisis at a local level so far?
So a couple of years ago, the city actually recognized that addictions across the board and across the full spectrum of services available, or at that time not available, to attend to the addictions crisis that we were faced with. We wanted to get ahead of it, and we had commissioned, and our community eventually adopted, a local community alcohol and drug strategy to essentially get ahead of the curve. In that strategy, it identifies the need for a complete, holistic, integrated, four-pillar approach to dealing with addictions. And so in that, it identifies the importance of prevention, of treatment, of harms reduction, and of community safety, so that all prongs on what is a highly complex and multifaceted, multi-jurisdictional issue, so that we could get ahead of the curve. I'm pleased with the fact that Red Deer led the way in terms of having a strategy. However, I think in the implementation, what Red Deer City Council's message before the provincial government has been that we need to see the provincial government fully implement all of those pillars. Certainly with respect to the opioid crisis, Red Deer has had tragedies on that front, and our message to the provincial government has been, and will need to continue to be, is that we need to see the full implementation of that integrated approach if we're going to get not only resolve the crisis, but to prevent further crisis in the future.
The Windstorm. Obviously, it blew through Red Deer and had quite an impact on all sorts of levels. What did we learn from it?
I think a couple of things, and I'm glad that you brought it up, Troy. I think in looking back at 2017, we did declare a state of local emergency as a result of the windstorm, or more technically, 121 kilometers straight band of wind through the city. And really, it was unbelievable on a couple of fronts, both positive and in terms of its devastation. It's absolutely remarkable how a wind that came up relatively quickly, winds are not foreign in this area, but because of the intensity of the wind and the way that the wind came through the community, we literally, as a result of that few minutes of a windstorm, lost thousands and thousands of trees in our urban canopy. But we also realized just how important infrastructure and emergency preparedness is. Of course, knowing that many people in our community were without power. At the inception of the windstorm, about 30% of our residents were without power. And then to the good people of Vanier Woods, who were the most patient Red Deerians, who were without power for up to and including 4 days. I think the learnings through that were a couple of things. One, government is responsible to prepare for emergencies before emergencies. And certainly I think our Emergency Operations Center proved how valuable the exercises that staff go through when there is an emergency really proved to be in terms of looking at an emergency, a local state of emergency, through multiple perspectives. The other important learning there was how, and I think we see it on so many fronts, is what an incredible community we really do live in. Red Deerians, when we ask them to step up, they step up even without being asked, actually. I mean, there were trees that were cleared on public and private lands. There were people out with chainsaws helping out their neighbors. There were people extending power lines across the street to give power to their neighbors. There were people delivering meals. There were community agencies that stepped up in support. So first message is, I think, the destruction that in very short order that can happen from a major or extreme weather event. Secondly, how community spirit really matters in those trying times. And thirdly, how we can even do more to prepare ourselves for emergency preparedness. So for example, the citizens that were often the most satisfied in that windstorm were those who were on Notify Red Deer and who were on the system. Those citizens had direct, timely, correct information directly from the city of Red Deer, for example, in a text message or an email or whatever the case may be. So I think that was the learnings, and certainly we continue to amass costs for the windstorm, and we have those costs submitted to the provincial government right now.
So overall for 2017, when you look back at the 12 months that were, what stands out for you, I guess, both good and bad?
So the challenges, I would say, we've talked crime and safety, the social challenges in the windstorm. I would say there were others, but those I think were the big ones. In terms of highlights, we talked about the Justice Center as being a positive. A couple of other positives that I think occurred, of course, we had sort of began the realization of a vision that's been 20 years in the making. We launched the land availability and the marketing launch for Capstone at Riverlands. That project has literally been, as I said, a vision 20 years in the making, and so we're finally at the point where we're ready to market those lands and transform the face of our downtown. I think that was a significant milestone. Certainly, the official handoff from the City of Winnipeg to the City of Red Deer of the Canada Winter Games flag, marking that we are now responsible in the lead up to the Games, that transpired over the past year. And there were other projects that, while we're in a recessed economy, give cues that we're preparing for a return to a growth economy. The opening of new schools give an indication of a growing population. The opening of new fire halls indicate that we're preparing for a return to growth years once again. Of course, this past year was Canada 150, and as part of our commitment to truth and reconciliation as well, we adopted the Urban Aboriginal Voices Protocols, which I think was an important history in the making milestone for the city as well. As we look ahead to 2018, of course, so I mentioned our council will be building their strategic direction, so hopefully implementing some of those plans and implementing previously established plans. We live in a place where we always need to be increasing the quality and diversity of our services to our citizens. So on the whole, as an organization, I think that's the commitment. Looking ahead to 2018, of course, we'll be preparing for the 2019 Canada Winter Games. We'll be welcoming the world, quite literally, in August for Ivan Halinka. We'll be welcoming municipal leaders from across the province to the AUMA conference in the fall. So those are some opportunities where we have to show people the real Red Deer. But I think above all, our purpose, our daily purpose is concern for the community and making our community a better place to live. I would highly suspect as we go through our budget deliberations in January and as we go through our strategic direction that the priority of council will be crime and public safety, and doing what we can to shore up some of those areas that we identified previously, and resolving some of the social challenges that we're faced with as a community, and ultimately piecing many things together, trying to position our local economy for growth once again, and hopefully we'll be shifting even more so into a state of economic recovery in 2018. It's busy times, but I always think that our challenges have a strong correlation with our opportunities as well. And there's always challenges and there's always opportunities. So I think our job is to do what we can to address challenges and make the most of opportunities when they present themselves. But you know what? We continue to be a dynamic city. We really are taking our place provincially and nationally, and so lots to look forward to in the years to come.
So you're having fun. I mean, you're allowed to have a little bit of fun while you're doing this, right?
Yes, I can honestly say, even in the most challenging moment, I absolutely feel so honored to be occupying the mayor's chair once again, and I absolutely love it. I am proud to be Red Deerian with my fellow 100,417 citizens, and look forward to embracing the opportunities that come our way, and know that we will be steadfast in facing the challenges that come our our way as well.